Hello and welcome to Granada Reports, live with the latest news across the northwest.
Yeah, thanks for joining us on the programme this Monday evening.
A medical scandal that stretches back decades and yet still no compensation for the children born with birth defects linked to epilepsy medication.
Blame myself. Even though I knew I asked all of the right questions, it doesn't take away that guilt because I took it.
The Dementia Centre, which could be mistaken for a social club. We hear from the former nurse who's trying to change the way we deal with dementia.
The net closes in on the shrimps. We'll be in Morecambe as the government calls on the club's owner to sell.
With the Coliseum still closed and another theatre demolished, we meet the theatre company hoping to put Oldham on the map with an Edinburgh-style festival.
And the effects of Storm Flores continue to be felt here in the northwest over the next few hours, but there's better news ahead. I'll have all the details in the forecast.
So please stay with us for all of that. Families at the heart of a medical scandal stretching back decades say they fear a promised compensation scheme has so far come to nothing because the previous government prioritised paying victims of infected blood instead.
Yeah, it's thought that thousands of babies were born with disabilities and birth defects because their mothers weren't properly warned about the risks of taking medication they were prescribed for their epilepsy.
Despite political promises from multiple governments, no financial help has been put forward. Our political correspondent Lisa McNally has been following the story.
Every day, Jade still has to take the drug that disabled her children, an epilepsy medication called sodium valproate. It's been linked to birth defects in thousands of babies whose mothers were prescribed the drug in pregnancy but never warned of the risks, something Jade has struggled to live with.
I was really sectioned. I didn't want to be here anymore. I felt like a failure. I shouldn't be a mum because I blame myself. Even though I knew I asked all of the right questions, it doesn't take away that guilt because I took it, and I would never have took it if I knew that. I just trusted the doctors. I did what they told me to do.
The story of sodium valproate dates back decades and includes a number of troubling chapters. Medical evidence ignored by regulators and governments, doctors dismissing patients' concerns, and even when safety guidelines were finally updated, some women were given their drugs in blank prescription boxes without the required pregnancy warnings. The result, up to 20,000 children like Tyler, born with fetal valproate spectrum disorder, which can include speech and language delay, autism, heart defects, mobility problems and deformities in the spine or limbs.
I have autism, learning disability and fetal valproate syndrome. It's been very hard. I've struggled so much.
All three of Jade's children have signs of exposure.
Devastating because it's rewritten their lives, especially Tyler. You know, he'll never have a meaningful job and not be able to support himself. There's a lot that's been taken away from Tyler. It's even things like, I don't like saying it, but he's even going to have the opportunity to get married, have kids, things like that. And I don't like saying it out loud, but that's realistic. And it's not fair. Or because I wasn't told. It's a huge scandal, it's a huge injustice, and it needs to be put right, doesn't it?
But putting it right has proved to be politically complicated. The battle for financial redress stretching on for years. In 2020, an independent review found that babies had been avoidably harmed and recommended the government compensate those affected. 4 years later, another report by the Patient Safety Commissioner set out exactly how the scheme could work, including making quick interim payments. But the one-year anniversary came and went without a single penny being paid. The report's author telling us,
my message to the government 1 year ago was get on with it. And although the government has changed, my message remains the same.
That was 6 months ago.
Now Parliament has risen for its summer recess with still no announcement being made.
Can I just say, Lisa, that the weight of the anxiety that this is causing on families is utterly ridiculous. And I think they've got to realise in there just what that weight feels like.
Janet and Emma both have disabled children and are long-time campaigners on sodium valproate. They claim one reason for the delay is because the previous government only had the money for one compensation scheme.
So we have spoke to a senior member of the Conservative government, and in that conversation it was stated that it was actually a toss-up between sodium valproate and contaminated blood. And to think that that was their thinking, to pit people's families up against each other, that is just abhorrent. These are real children with disabilities, real adults, real lives. We're not just data.
Now we have a Labour government. Are you worried that that might be their thinking too?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely, because of how things have gone since this Labour government came into power. We get the impression that they don't want to do this because they're frightened as to how much this may cost.
The government says it's working at pace. What do you say to that?
The government need to get a move on, because they've been working at pace for the longevity of this campaign, and it is just an insult.
Their frustrations are shared by this Labour MP, who's been calling for compensation ever since she arrived in Parliament.
Did you think a Labour government would be the turning point?
I'm confident a Labour government will be the turning point, and I'm frustrated that we're not there already. Every day we're a day older than we were yesterday, and for these parents that means they're a day closer to not being able to support their children. This isn't about whether or not we pay, or it's more a case of when, and the right thing to do is to pay up now, because ultimately many of these children are growing up and going to be relying on the state for the care anyway.
You've been pushing for answers in Parliament. Are you being fobbed off?
I'm not happy with the answers I'm currently getting from government. I feel like I'm getting a stock answer repeatedly, and I think it's time to stop buying time and to start, basically putting right what's been done wrong for decades.
After the general election, the government promised it would respond to the Hughes report at the earliest opportunity, but this has not yet happened. And campaigners say that after months and years of waiting, more delays are getting hard to swallow.
So how much longer could they have to wait? Well, I asked the Department for Health for an update on when a compensation scheme could be announced or when they'd make the quick interim payments in the meantime. No answers on that specifically, but I have been told the government is fully focused on how best to support patients and prevent future harm. And they added that this is a complex area of work and the government is carefully considering the recommendations in full. Now, all of that is true, but it's also true to say that it's pretty much exactly the same statement as I was sent 6 months ago when we marked 1 year since the Hughes report was published. And that lack of progress is something that MPs and campaigners say they find really frustrating. Now, in the government's defence, we know from things like the post office scandal that setting up a compensation scheme is not simple. There are questions about eligibility, the burden of proving a claim, plus the Conservative government announced that compensation scheme for infected blood victims and then immediately called a general election, leaving Labour tasked with the admin and the costs. But what the sodium valproate family say is that justice cannot be a case of either or, and they too can't afford to wait any longer.
OK, Leisha in Westminster, thanks so much.
Police investigating the disappearance of missing Whitefield man Craig Foy say they found a body near Heaton Park. The search for Craig has involved teams of officers. Detectives say their investigation will continue to establish the circumstances leading up to Craig's death.
A teenager who died after a stabbing in Bury has been named as Mohammed Afzal. The 19-year-old, who's known to his loved ones as Issa, was attacked in the car park of a football complex next to Bury College on Friday evening. Police say they're supporting his family and 3 suspects remain in custody.
Sarah Pochin, the Reform MP for Runcorn and Helsby, has met with the Chief Constable of Cheshire. It comes after she claimed Greenway Road in Runcorn had been blighted by violence and antisocial behaviour caused by illegal immigration. Some residents have criticised their MP for her comments.
16,000 people have signed a petition calling for security measures to be introduced at probation offices after a stabbing in Preston last month. The probation service says it's conducting a review of the incident and will consider whether further changes were needed nationally. The victim, who's in her 30s, suffered a number of stab wounds but is expected to recover from the injuries. A 35-year-old man of no fixed address has been charged with attempted murder. Now, a yellow weather warning for strong winds remains in place across the northwest after the arrival of Storm Flores.
Yeah, so far, as expected, Scotland's been heaviest hit, but there's still been advice from Avanti West Coast for rail passengers not to travel north of Preston.
Well, let's cross over to Joe at the weather desk now. And Joe, that weather graphic behind you looks pretty scary, but it seems we've avoided the worst of it.
Yeah, it does look quite dramatic there. And of course, Storm Flores was a deep low pressure system moving in from the west through the early hours of this morning. Our 6th named storm of the season, the first one since January. And it certainly brought some really gusty weather to us here in the northwest. But Scotland has borne the brunt of the windiest conditions this afternoon. Gusts in excess of 75 miles per hour further north. But at Crosby at lunchtime today, we did see a gust of 58 miles per hour, and over the next couple of hours or so, still some gusty, windy weather ahead. Now, of course, the summer months, we don't normally expect storms, but they're not completely unheard of. In August, we have had storms in the past. In fact, 5 storms in August since 2020, 2 in 2020 itself, 2 in 2023, and 1 in 2024. Of course, they're more common in the winter months. Lots of us on holiday at the moment, so it's certainly very relevant that we've put these warnings in place. And we still have a yellow warning in place here in the northwest for wind as we head through into this evening and overnight. So if you're travelling tonight, particularly on the region's higher routes, high parts of the M6 or on the Transpennine routes there, it could still be rather windy for a time, but things are significantly improving after midnight tonight and for the rest of the week. I've got all the details later on in the forecast.
OK, Joe, glad we seem to have avoided the worst of it.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Now, anyone who's ever cared for someone with dementia knows how hard it can be and how quickly it can change and take away a loved one. Well, a former nurse from Merseyside is working to change some of that.
Yeah, Michelle King set up Active Minds in Sefton 7 years ago now to not only slow the progress of the disease in those living with it, but to stop carers burning out along the way. And now her day centre is expanding to a second site.
And the aim is to care for a community that often gets overlooked when it comes to dementia care. Andy Bonner reports.
If this looks more like a social club than a dementia centre, that's by design. This is Active Minds, where people with neurodegenerative diseases come to slow the decline. People like Dot.
I can imagine it might be quite scary to have dementia.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Because I can keep repeating to people and I don't even know I'm doing it. I wouldn't want to be at home on my own. When I'm here and I'm mixing with people, I'm having a laugh.
What is it about the place?
People are lovely. We're all in the same position and we get up and talk and, you know, sing, and it's good.
Mum wasn't too keen at first, if I'm honest. She was too used to being in a house by herself. But we brought her down. She made a couple of friends within the first 30 minutes or so, and she loved it. Now I've got 3 full days in work where I can relax knowing that any issue, no matter what it is, Michelle and the team, her amazing team that work around her, all can deal with that situation.
Michelle is the brains behind the idea. A former nurse, she worked in care homes for years and realised not everyone with dementia needs to say goodbye to their own home.
It's about stimulating them, helping them delay the progression of the illness, but more vitally is the support for the carers who suffer from burnout, who feel there's nowhere to turn to, who feel they don't have a voice or a basic simple plan. Many people have told us that they just get given a diagnosis and that's it.
It's not just about music. Members take part in a whole range of activities, all aimed at vitalising minds. Di Davis spent the last years of his life here.
The sheer fun and enjoyment, it's really encouraged. They don't see the dementia as the barrier. It's what can we do to help you enjoy yourself? And doing that is how they're developed and stimulated and the brain is kept working on there. Oh, it's just absolutely fantastic.
Marie is her mum's sole carer. Rose comes here up to 4 times a week.
If she's on her own for more than an hour, 2 hours, that's when you see the confusion comes in. So, but when they're active and they're dancing and they're listening to music and they're talking, even just talking, having a cup of tea, it's sort of like it stops them getting that confusion. And I notice that when she's here, she doesn't get as confused.
Active Minds have now opened a second centre, this time in Toxteth. The incidence of dementia is said to be 20% higher in black and ethnic minority groups.
The diagnosis rate is lower, but there is suspected that lots of people who maybe have dementia, haven't been diagnosed, and aren't kind of following that path so that they can have the diagnosis and then have the support that comes with it. So I think what's amazing about this service is, even if you're not formally diagnosed, if you would benefit from what's on offer, you can access it.
Ours is all about early intervention and crisis prevention. And I think if we nip that and we're on top of that, we would prevent people hitting crisis to be put into care homes or into a hospital or into a setting that is totally unfamiliar with, where the family don't have a say. And I think that is very soul destroying for carers, their children and their families.
The aim is to bring this unique model to every borough in the region. And one day, Michelle hopes to open a dementia village to help members and give their loved ones longer periods of respite care. Andy Bonner, ITV News, Crosby.
Oh, it looks like they're having an absolute ball there.
Yeah, they really are. Important work being done too. On to sport now, and a fitting tribute inside Anfield for Diogo Jota. Here's Chris.
Yeah, it's the first match day at Anfield since the death of Liverpool player Diogo Jota, and his old teammates have joined with fans in paying tribute to him at tonight's friendly matches with Athletic Bilbao. A very emotional rendition of You'll Never Walk Alone filled Anfield for the Portuguese international and his brother André Silva after both died in a car crash in Spain last month. Flowers were laid by former Liverpool captain Phil Thompson and Athletic Club president John Uriarte, while the game was stopped on 20 minutes to pay further tribute to Jota, whose number 20 jersey has now been retired. Well, it was in Bilbao where Ruben Amorim's Manchester United missed out on the Europa League title in May, but now they have their first trophy since he took over. Last night they won the Premier League Summer Series, a pre-season tournament held in America, a 2-2 draw with Everton, enough to beat the Blues, Bournemouth and West Ham to the trophy. But for our clubs in Leagues 1 and 2, the friendlies are over and the new season kicked off with a strong start for Wigan Athletic. They kicked off with a 3-1 win over Northampton at the Brick Community Stadium. Meanwhile, Stockport County were 2-0 winners against Bolton Wanderers. Blackpool were beaten, but in League 2, Accrington Stanley drew 1-1 with Gillingham. It was the same scoreline for Tranmere Rovers as they drew at Colchester United. Barrow were beaten, but Fleetwood Town won 2-0 at newly promoted Barnet, thanks to a moment the Barnet goalkeeper will want to forget. Elsewhere, a bit of pinball in the box helped Crewe pick up 3 points with a 3-1 win at Salford City, and Oldham Athletic's first Football League match in 3 years was a goalless draw at MK Dons. Well, Oldham replaced Morecambe in League 2 after they were relegated to the National League at the end of last season. But the Shrimps are currently suspended from that division while their takeover crisis continues. Today, the club was officially shut as club staff stopped working with no money in the bank to pay wages. David Chisnall can join us live from the club now. So what next, David? Is there any hope for Morecambe fans at all?
Well, the fans will hope there is, Chris. You know, this is a 105-year-old club and it is a huge part of the community here in Morecambe, despite its football operations completely stopping and its dire financial situation. As you say, there is that glimmer of hope in the form of a potential takeover offer. Well, the club's current owner, Jason Whittingham, and his Bond Group Investments had previously agreed to sell the club. But when it came to the crunch, he didn't. He still hasn't, and he's not made public why not, despite us contacting him for comment and the fans constantly calling for him to go. Now, the group who want to buy the club are called the Punjab Warriors. Well, they, along with the minority shareholders, are the ones who say the club is now out of money and shut. They've told us today, though, that their takeover offer still stands. They're ready to come in. They're ready to clear the debts, to pay the staff and to restart the football operations. Well, let's have a chat with two men who have Morecambe close to their hearts. The former co-chairman, Rod Taylor, James Baines, who's also part of the Shrimps Trust. Rod, we'll come to you first of all. I mean, how big a blow is this? What's happening here at Morecambe to the whole community?
It's massive, Dave. It's massive to the whole community. You know, it's not just about football on a Saturday. It's about interaction in the town, in the local area. It's about all the stuff that community sports does. It's about the academy. There's a whole host of things. But, you know, as we stand today, we're looking at destroying the history of 105 years, and that is the sad thing.
It really is sad, isn't it? What do we know about the takeover? We thought this was all going to happen, this was all going to go ahead come June, but it's not.
No, and there are reasons for that we don't understand. There is no reason at all why Jason Whittingham cannot complete this deal. I think it's won't rather than can't. And my own opinion on that is I think he's trying to extract more finance out of whoever he can to complete the deal. But as I say, in my head, he can do it. It's within his gift to do it.
James, we'll come to you now. What's the reaction been? What's the impact on the fans, generation of fans who love Morecambe?
Well, we're absolutely devastated with what's going on right now. You know, as a fan, this club just means so much to us. 105 years of history, like Rod says, it's just going down the pan. There's so many memories that we've had, not just at this ground, but at Christie Park, at Wembley, lots of other grounds that we've played at. He'll never take those memories away from us, but we want more memories.
Guys, thanks so much for joining us this evening. Well, there we go. Well, Morecambe should actually be playing their first game in the National League this Saturday. They're not. They're currently suspended by the league. Well, their committee will meet on August the 20th, and they could decide that if things don't improve here, well, they will expel the club from the league. And if that happens, well, many here fear that that will spark the end and mean the end to Morecambe Football Club as we know it.
Yeah, thank you, David. A difficult time for fans of Morecambe and all the staff there too. Hopefully they get a resolution soon.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much, Chris. Well, finally tonight to the theatre company fighting to keep the arts alive in Oldham.
Yeah, later this month, the town will host its first ever Edinburgh-style theatre festival with more than 30 shows and cast made up of mostly local talent.
Yeah, Andrew Fletcher now takes up the story.
Aha! There's our intrusive character. We're showing the hedgelings.
Rehearsing for an arts festival, which its organisers hope will put Oldham back on the cultural map. The Dare to Create festival will bring 9 days of theatre, dance and comedy to the town, giving local talent a chance to shine.
Really?
It's about bringing together all the artists in Oldham to put on work that they've been meaning to put on for ages. There's currently nowhere to perform in Oldham, so about taking over spaces where we can perform and getting people, most importantly, getting artists from Oldham on the stage and performing their work.
This town, this forgotten mill town that's bound by clowns, that's drowned by clouds, this town.
Oldham has a proud cultural history, producing stars such as Olivia Cook, Sarah Lancashire, Anne Kirkbride and Bernard Cribbins, and until recently boasting 2 thriving theatres. But the closure of the Coliseum and the demolition of the Grange Arts Centre have dealt a big blow to the town's cultural community.
There was a lot of mourning about the Oldham Coliseum, and it has been saved, and that's great, but it's still not open yet. One of the aspects that we've been really trying to look to is where can we put performances on.
Their creative solution to that problem has taken them to a renovated mill, where galleries and rehearsal spaces will host performances, and one play about taxi drivers will be performed in a loading bay.
It's an opportunity for people to actually do what they want to do. You know, we might not have a theatre space, but it's still possible, which is what we can prove. You know, theatre can still be possible regardless whether the theatres are getting closed down or smashed, like the Grange and stuff. So it just shows that, you know, we're very strong people as a unit in the theatre.
Despite being rejected for funding for the festival, organisers have kept ticket prices at £10 in the hope of attracting large audiences to the shows.
We're both from Oldham, we love Oldham, This is what we're all about. It'd be really easy to take work into Manchester, but that's not what we want to do.
We create work for Oldham and
with Oldham. By Oldham.
The festival runs from the 23rd to the 31st of August, an Edinburgh fringe for the North West, which will put Oldham centre stage. Andrew Fletcher, ITV News in Oldham.
Looks great, doesn't it?
It does, a loading bay for a performance. People will pay good money for that, they really
The
will.
world's the stage. Well, as we heard from Joe a little earlier, it's been pretty wet and windy out there today, although it looks quite nice for us today, doesn't it? The sun's shining. But let's see if that rain's going to continue. Here's Joe with the details.
Why do I need a shower? I've been out in the rain.
The faster you go, the sooner you'll be out. You'll save water too.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Hello again. Some strong and gusty winds for parts of the northwest today, courtesy of Storm Flores. In general, though, as we head through this evening, winds begin to ease down, certainly after midnight, before a showery day to come tomorrow. And fine weather ahead on Wednesday. Now, that deep low pressure system named Flores, our 6th named storm of the season and first storm since January, brought some very strong winds across Scotland earlier today and continues to do so for parts of northern England into this evening and overnight. However, by dawn, it's shifted away and skies will be brightening with far lighter winds ahead for tomorrow. For a time this evening, gusty winds for headlands of the Irish Sea coast, but also up on higher ground, Transpennine routes, Cumbrian fells, the Pennines before dawn, and quite a few showers beginning to feed through into Lancashire, Cumbria by the end of the night. Perhaps 1 or 2 of these containing a rumble or 2 of thunder. Other than that, settling down, winds beginning to ease off before dawn, and temperature-wise, it's not chilly tonight, 11 or 12 Celsius, our overnight low. On to tomorrow. The sun is up at 5:31 and sets at 9:01 tomorrow evening. A bright start to the day tomorrow, but from the word go, showers are feeding through on that breeze, and some of these could be heavy, at times merging to form longer spells of rain. And they tend to be focused across parts of the Pennines, Lancashire, and of course Cumbria, with slightly drier conditions further south through the afternoon. A fresher feel in general, it's a cool breeze, 18, 19 Celsius. But a fine day to come on Wednesday. Thursday doesn't look bad either. Temperatures are around average or just below. It's fairly settled in the run-up to the weekend.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Thank you, Joe. Settled. That's the word we want to hear after a wet and windy day. That's good.
Absolutely.
Now, just before we go, a little boy from Lee is appealing for help from rugby league fans. Alfie Sales, who's 11, has Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and he's been fundraising and raising awareness of his condition for most of his life.
Yeah, well, he's now asking for donations of signed rugby shirts for a special auction to help raise money for him to live out his bucket list.
If you play coach, sell the merch, or know someone with a famous signature, please can you help me out? Let's do something awesome together. Thanks for being a part of my wish list magic.
Oh, gorgeous, Alfie.
Yeah, wish list magic, that's great. If you want to get involved in Alfie's campaign, you can head to our website for all of the info, itv.com/Granada.
Yeah, good luck to Alfie from all of us here at Granada. And that's it for tonight. Thanks so much for watching. Have a lovely evening. Good night.
Bye.